9 a.m. and I am delighted to call our meeting of the Blue Ribbon Committee. Everyone is present. I'd like to start by welcoming our two new members to our team. And do either of you have any questions at this time?
No, I looked through most of the stuff.
Well, very good. Then moving along, we have approval of the minutes.
Move they be approved as read.
Second.
Any comments? Those in favor, aye. Aye. Thank you. We don't have an agenda in front of us, so,
You do, but it has nothing on it.
oh,
I had no idea, I had no idea what you guys wanted to put on there, so I just didn't bother to put. I just put new business, so if you guys have anything you want to discuss, you can go for it, you know what I mean, go ahead.
we'll do that, but, also, what we're going to do is, Karen, so we know that, of course, there's the approval of the minutes, there's new business, there's old business. We have the funding feasibility study, and of course, or other work. So those are pretty standard things that should be on each agenda.
Okay.
And I'll go over this with you later. And in addition to that, of course, we always discuss the next meeting date, so that could be an agenda item. And I also propose that before we adjourn, we discuss items for the next agenda.
I have an agenda template I will send you.
Oh, wonderful.
For my meetings, right?
Oh, terrific. Thank you very much. Moving forward, John, do you have anything to report today?
I don't have anything from the superintendent or the building. I have not contacted them beyond what we've already discussed. I do plan to go to a Rotary meeting tomorrow and maybe have some contact there in Palatka, so we'll see what happens there.
No, wonderful. Good, so the work continues.
If the work continues. Yeah.
Thank you. BJ, any news on your front?
Nothing to report. I'm still waiting for, fellow title to give us their work. I believe it should be at the end of this week or early next week, is what she said. And, did you make contact and talk to the REG regarding the historic resource report?
I did, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are we ready to go for that?
I did, and I met with Michael this morning.
All right.
We had a nice conversation.
Okay.
I'm going to provide him with just a little more information today.
Okay.
And then we'll move forward. Ron, any words of wisdom this morning?
Not at this point.
Thank you, sir.
I would like to point out at some point, and I think Commissioner Laurie and John are the ones that's doing most of the work with the superintendent and the school board, is to get some kind of an idea of their feelings toward purchasing, what price they set on it or how they want to work it. I know we're getting all this preliminary work ready, but I think the main goal is whether or not we can work out a deal with them to purchase the building. And I've not heard anything in any of the meetings as to what direction.
Well,
If that's not clear as mud.
Well, I mean, I can kind of give some clarity to that. I mean, that's one of the reasons, we had the review of the appraisal that, Barbara had gotten for
Yeah,
us.
that's definitely, something in our favor.
Right.
Difference
And,
in appraisal.
if we start out with that as a basis for negotiations, and, I mean, we're looking more, definitely starting out at that number, the 830,000 or 850,000, and then going down from that. And there's a lot of things that will go into that factor. That's one of the reasons we're waiting for the abstract, because that'll tell us, and that's what John was talking about, putting together our story for a presentation to the board. Because if we can come up with a rational, we need to come up with that, if we can, we need to come up with a rational argument for a price. And that's really what all of this is leading up to.
Right.
We're not, we're zeroing in on that, we're not there yet. But there is a lot, I mean, there's some things that I'm trying to work on with utility billing that possibly we could give them a discounted rate on utilities as part of the way we pay for them, and some other things. And we're really looking at, the value of the property based on that appraisal and going down from that. And the only thing that makes it difficult is, of course, that parcel C. Did you give them the map? Did you give them maps or the pronouncement? Okay, because we kind of, when we're talking about on those maps, it has parcel A, B, and C. B is like where the building 1 and the gym and the auditorium is. Parcel A is the north side that bumps up against Central Avenue. And then parcel C is that field where the ag or the resource building is down there. So one of the things that is an issue is when we had talks with the superintendent was that we were willing, they still want to kind of sell parcel C and try and get some money from that. The problem is that there's at least two, I believe, retention ponds there that take the water from when the media center was built and when the cafeteria was built. And they go right to the back of that property and right in the center of that property. So that kind of makes it, I mean, there's ways to deal with it, but that does make it a little less marketable. And so that's another thing but we're not there yet, but we're getting there. But, I know that there's been talk about that price that was on the original appraisal of $4.5 million, and we're like nowhere near that. I mean, and I actually had someone tell me, well, I don't think we should pay $4.5 million, and I'm like, I don't either. We're not going to. That's not our goal, because they understand that the city can't afford that. And, we need to get it at a reasonable price that makes sense for them and for us. And that's.
No, I understand that.
Yeah.
okay, I think it's important. It's out of the hands, at this point, it's out of the hands of the superintendent and Mr. Bowley.
Right. It's
They have said,
decisions.
what you're requesting is beyond our scope. We can only do 10% below that first appraisal. So I think it's important when we tell our story, we have it, it's gonna be factual, it's gonna be concise, it's gonna be interesting, it's gonna be supported by all kinds of facts and photographs. We have two hurdles to get over. One is to go before the city commission. Then we go before the school board. Now, I think it's important that our story not be leaked out piece by piece. I think when we give it to the school board, they'll have it at least a week ahead, all that material. So they'll have time to digest it. And then we will tell the story and they'll make a decision. So if you tell a story piece by piece, it gets fragmented, broken up, rumored,
Right.
and it has very much less impact. So I think it's important that we, as members of the committee, once we get all of this together, and we'll have a letter of understanding, I guess you'd call it that, to begin with, that we present it as a package to the school board.
Thank you, John.
And to the city.
So
Yes,
we're,
the city first, yes.
so in summary, what we're still doing, fact finding. And to put a complete package together for presentation. As John pointed out, to the city commission first, and then to the school board. And the importance, again, is to, not release partial information, which could, cause undue questioning and speculation, but to have a complete presentation. So thank you for your fine work, and we will look forward to hearing more at a later date. Any more on this subject? Any public comment at this time? Thank you. Any other old business? Any new business?
I have a question, if I could ask Ron. In the original appraisal, it had the schematic, the site plan of this building, kind of, and I'm trying to get a better copy of this so that I can use it to make one for us to use. But it does on this map have the location of the gas meters and water meters. And at the back of the building, behind the auditorium, it says that there's a gas meter that feeds cafeteria boilers.
Yeah.
And so is that for cooking or for heating?
For cooking.
Okay. And then there's one at the front by the gym that says feeds gym boilers. Is that for hot water for the?
Yeah, there's two 100-gallon tanks in the locker rooms, one each, and that's natural gas.
Okay, so that would make sense there. Okay, that was I was just kind of wondering, because I know we were talking about the boiler in the main building is gone. Was that gas as well? Do you know?
I don't remember it being a gas meter. The old boilers were oil boilers. I don't
Oh,
think
really?
they ever
Okay.
changed them over.
Okay, that's, because I didn't see another gas meter that said anything about the main building. It wasn't one either, so I just was making sure, and I knew you would know, so. Okay, thank you. Yeah, this schematic, I think, they gave us one for the media center that we used to, at the Historical Society, I think, and it's really kind of crude, and I need to get a better copy of it. I'm gonna talk to Travis, but it does have the layout and kind of shows all the different rooms, which I think would be helpful. I just wish I could get it with dimensions, so that it tells you the dimensions of the rooms, because planning would be.
They should have that.
Yeah, I would think that, especially, well, I'm thinking about the building 15, the new one that's on Prospect Street, the newer classroom building. Because as far as planning to move to City Hall, we'd probably be looking at that building, and it'd be great to know the dimensions, just to see how much room we have. But I know it's pretty, when we went over there, it's a big building, it has a lot of room in this room.
Which one was that?
That is actually up here, this one that goes, it has a little L right here. Yeah, okay. That's the newest building, one, it's built in 2000, or no, it's built in 2003 or something.
Yeah, 13 years ago, and it was probably 6-8 years old at that point. I'd say at least 20-21 years ago.
Okay, so,
Early 2000s.
so 2003 or something, okay. Yeah. That's it.
Thank you. Moving forward, so let's talk about upcoming meeting dates. We've been meeting once a week, and I think in the future we should think about whether or not that's going to be necessary. I think probably is probably wise that we meet next week. But my recommendation is that, November 5th, election day, we not meet. It's a busy day for everyone.
Yes.
And then we can take it from there. So when we advertise for, new members of the committee, there were two areas that we, spoke about. One was financial, because, we will need to be doing, probably some forecast budgeting, in the future. The other was real estate. I'm pretty confident that at this point, Barbara has done such a great job for us that she's got us in a good direction.
Yes.
At this point. But one of the other areas that I think is going to be very important is partners in this venture. Our mission, our goal is to move this project along with as little expenditure to the city as possible. And obviously with an abundance of 90 square feet of building space, the city government moving over to that space won't need most of it. And that includes any county or possible state agencies that might join us in that location. So we've talked about the concept of partnership before, and obviously the cafeteria, has great exposure to the park, to the lake, to the docks, and it's a large square footage. So it would make a great freestanding restaurant of some type. Also catering operation, and also in addition, a third is a kitchen space that could be rented by home industry. Maybe somebody making bread, that their own home kitchen they've grown out, which is a common thing. So that's that space. We have the theater, of course, that is a great venue for plays, shows, movies, and so a theater production company would be attracted to it, as well as the auditorium itself is another great function venue for conferences, weddings, special events, and trade shows. So, and there are companies that would be interested in leasing that out. The concept is they would lease these spaces out, make the necessary improvements at their expenditure, and then pay the city. Obviously, they pay their own utilities. Financially, that's how we might see it working.
Yes, but just dovetailing into what you're saying, the presentation we make to the city will be very different than the presentation we make to the school board. The school board, we're trying to sell them on the idea of a partnership that leads to ownership. To the city, we need to help them understand that it can be and will be financially feasible. That's what we need to be conveying to the city. So it's two different
messages.
Very important, yes.
Delighted you brought that up, Joe. Yeah.
So we have our homework ahead of us.
We do, yes. We do indeed.
And committee work, I don't know what you want to call it, All that has to be prepared, and someone has to present. We have to figure out who's gonna be the presenter on both sides, on both,
Well, don't you, before you can go to the school board, don't you have to go in front of the commission and get approval to go to the school board?
Yes, that's what we're talking about.
yeah, you have to go, yeah, we have to go to, before
So
the
you would be
commission first.
presenting in front of the commission twice, right? Once to the.
Well, not necessarily, we'll see, but, John pointed that out earlier, that our first presentation will be to the city to get their blessing,
Oh, and then,
and then move on to the school board.
okay.
Yeah, it would be really ridiculous if we went before the school board and they approved it and the city said no. That'd be embarrassing, wouldn't it?
Yes, and we would not do that.
We're not gonna do that.
No, we're not. Well, John, you've had a long-standing relationship with the school board, being a past member, and you've been our representative, so I think it's natural to look to you for that presentation if you would
Well, I
accept
don't
it.
think I should do that one. I think we can find someone.
Oh, good.
We're working on it. I am in the back of my mind, so.
Well, we have all the faith in you, so I guess just let us know at the proper time how we can help.
All right.
On either the city or the school board. Okay, thank you. All right. So Kevin and Nancy are, have you ever even thought how you'd like to, help us?
Just whatever you need.
I have a couple of questions as a newcomer. One silly question, what does REG stand for?
It's, it's the architecture firm, it's his initials actually, Richard, wait, is that right?
Gonzalez.
So it's an architectural firm?
And they have a, continuing services contract with the city. We have put out an RFQ for architects with historic preservation or historic, and actually they're really one of the best in the state. They come very highly recommended. They work on several, plenty of projects. In fact, Dan's worked with them in the past. And actually, the principal sits on the board, or sits on the committee that decides what historic preservation grants are awarded money by the state, so.
So we're talking renovation, rehabilitation.
Well, and that's one of the things that this report that they're doing will tell us whether we need to restore, renovate, rebuild or whatever. So, and they use the standards of the Department of Interior and all that kind of stuff to keep it,
And they specialize in restoration and.
Because clearly those costs have the potential to exceed the cost of acquiring this.
I would
think that could be great cost.
Yeah,
And cost of purchase.
That's the importance of partnerships.
Yeah. And that's also one of the things, I mean, I don't know if you saw they just did a report for us on the Newman Lodge
Yeah.
with the conceptuals, and they did the scanning of it and put the plans together. And it'll be just like that, except for covering all the 5 main buildings there.
So they can help identify grant sources.
And
Also, yes.
they'll also put together a price range for us for whatever work that they suggest be done.
They can help us not only with this study, but through the entire project, in many ways. And Rick is going to send us some examples of work similar to our project that they've done. That I'll provide to Karen, and she'll distribute on this.
Yeah, more like Crescent City than the ones they referenced, I think it was in Jacksonville and Orlando. It's a totally different demographics that they mentioned, so.
Yes.
So we got something comparable to rural areas.
Yes, and Rick loves this area, he loves our city. He first came here in 2020 with his wife to Willacca. Discovered the area, fell in love with Crescent City, understands its history, and understands what what the potential is for quality growth,
Mhm.
and especially with the foundation of the past. So, yeah. Well, very good, okay. Right. Should we, let's next, discuss our next agenda. Of course, it's called to order and, approval of minutes, new business, old business.
Whole business comes with
Thank you, Nancy. An update with Joan's work, update with BJ's work with title. What else might we include?
Visitor, any further discussion on other stuff we missed, just an item called other. So if people in the audience want to discuss something, or some of us have something to speak about that's not been mentioned, that, and then,
Excellent, Nancy.
next meeting is also nice to have them.
Okay. Thank you. And speaking of others, yes, sir.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, please come on.
Just like to offer a couple of observations, please. Danny Miller. One, a housekeeping item. I was just, pardon me, scanning down the list of documents on file, and the charter for the Blue Ribbon Committee isn't on here. That would seem to be a very important document that might be included, help to orient the new members, that kind of thing.
That was included in our packet.
Okay, I just didn't see it listed.
It's not listed, but it was included.
Also, I heard mention Commissioner Laurie about the utilities. I don't know if perhaps there's some minimum gas charge too, and presumably there's no gas being used there, but that might also be something to consider. And then there was conversation about the presentation to the school district, or the narrative, that kind of thing, and then the presentation to the commission. And it seems that there's perhaps an opportunity for some overlap where the school district could be partners in efforts down there. An example, the 4th and 8th grade required Florida history component. Well, certainly the Historical Society, if they're so fortunate as to have a place down there, could play a role in that. Performing arts, perhaps, continuing education, GED, ESOL. And then the chairman had mentioned different food service kind of opportunities at the cafeteria. And my wife taught for a number of years, many of y'all know her, at Newsomburg Beach High School. They had a very interesting program there. It was food service. Where they taught people how to run food service operations, and the students were very involved. And perhaps that's another opportunity for partnership with the school district. This area is growing. You know, how many thousands of acres are going to be developed in the land, or excuse me, in Willaca. There's going to be a need for food service, trained food service people down here. So perhaps an opportunity. Just want to mention that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Yes.
Another opportunity that for the cafeteria, the extension office in East Palaca frequently has canning classes where people can go in and actually reserve their own food there. That kind of thing could be done in the cafeteria as well, because a lot of people cannot drive 18 or 20 miles to the extension office there, but they could do that here. And it's a great skill to know as well.
It is, there are many other possibilities through the extension.
Exactly.
Excellent, thank you. Any other comments on other?
I think some of these things that we're talking about, we also need to make contact with people. In other words, if we wanted to have a partnership between the St. John's River State College, we should talk to them before we talk to the city commission and see if they are amenable to having an extension to us. Wishing for something and hoping for something is one thing, but knowing that it's feasible is infinitely more important. So all of those, there's some homework we need to do on some of these things.
As far as St. John's State College, I can reach out to Joe Pickens. Actually, I started an email, I haven't finished it, but it's on my list to talk to him.
And who would you reach out to?
Joe Pickens, the president.
Pardon?
Joe Pickens, president
Thank you.
of St. John's State College.
But who would you reach out to at other places? The president? There must be, or.
I just have a personal relationship.
I know, but like, for example, what about Embry-Riddle or Bethune-Cookman? I know they have satellite classes in different places. Who would you, HR, you just call for information and say, help? Okay.
Yeah,
Nancy, the two institutions that you just mentioned are both private, so they would be eligible. The public institutions, the state colleges, which started out as community colleges, are public. And they have divided up the state into territories. And here in Putnam County, we are outside of the Volusia County territory of Daytona State College, but we're very much in the territory of St. John's River. So if they were at all interested in building a branch campus, as many of these institutions did, public institutions back, starting really in the 70s and through the 80s up to the present time, this would be an ideal location for them to do such a satellite campus here, pretty much ready-made, ready to go, with an emphasis on culinary. The culinary program at Daytona State College is still fairly new. It's less than 10 years old, I think. And my son just graduated from that after graduating from University of North Florida with a degree in jazz performance. So now he has 2 degrees in high turnover professions. But the one at DSC is becoming well known, is very successful, and St. John's River might be interested in offering them some competition in this territory.
Awesome, good point.
Yeah.
Kevin, is there another school that is within our territory that we might consider besides St. John's?
Well, no, we are in the territory of St. John's River Community College.
Oh, so there is.
Yeah, the state legislature has divided these up to be non-overlapping, because they don't want to be competing for the same public funds. So otherwise it would be a lot more cutthroat than it is.
yeah.
So it's a wise move, and it's age old, since they were chartered. So that would be our one prospect as a public institution. The private schools, anything goes. But I don't, having worked at Embry-Riddle, I don't see them having an interest in this area, in culinary especially. They're primarily an aviation school, although they're trying to diversify into related areas, especially business administration. But again, we're outside of both of those. Bethune-Cookman, I can't say, I don't know.
Somehow the high school is going to be interacting with Embry-Riddle in the next year or two.
Oh,
So to find out about that.
Okay.
That would be a connection.
Yeah, they have a new program that they're doing with Space Florida for, whatever it's called, the people down that run part of the Kennedy Space Center, and the statewide authority for space and also aerospace, and it's supposed to have an aerospace program as well. So,
and this is at the high school?
yes,
So that sounds like a feeder program.
it's gonna be in partnership with their, and also I think they have a drone, or they were teaching people how to fly drones too.
I know they are some schools.
Kevin, it's the perfect time, would you be willing to make contact with them?
With St. John's River, certainly, in cooperation
with the aviation.
Sure. I mean, I worked with them as an adjunct in their physical science department and also in their civil engineering department. So I would be coming a bit out of right field there,
Well, it doesn't, I mean, culinary would just be one of the options.
but yeah.
We have,
Exactly.
and St. John's has up to, presently used, there's two classrooms that have computers on it that they've been doing. I think either GED or continuing education stuff. So I'm gonna reach out and hope to make sure they continue, if they would wish to continue and work with us and maybe expand, any sort of, obviously, we're gonna have a lot of classroom space. So,
To me, since we're talking about two institutions, very, very different institutions, one public and private, with very different missions, I would recommend that we focus on St. John's River first. And then if that for some reason fails, then broaden our search a little bit. But I wouldn't want to approach them at the same time. Certainly.
Yeah, I agree. Excellent point. Thank you. The other thing that our community would benefit is a youth center, youth activity for our community. Well, excellent discussion. Any other further discussion or thoughts?
Do we need to assign someone to approach St. John's?
I got it.
Are you going to do that?
Yeah.
Commissioner Laurie will do it?
Yes.
Okay.
Volunteer.
Yeah, very good.
So I will do further research on the auditorium and the theater. A good friend of mine is the executive director of the Broward Center for Performing Arts, so she's been there for at least 10 years. And I know that she will be willing to guide us.
Mr. Chairman, when you talk about theater and auditorium in the same building, right, the auditorium?
Right.
Yeah, okay, you keep saying theater and then auditorium, and I was.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, theater, yeah. Getting ahead of myself. But I also will make contact about the auditorium as an event center. Anything else this morning? Yes, sir.
I could just make one quick comment, actually a question. Commissioner Laurie, is St. John's State still the Florida School for the Arts?
Yes.
Perhaps
On the campus.
perhaps when we speak to Joe,
Yeah.
might ask him if there's an opportunity, or excuse me, an interest in tapping into a performing space down here and that kind of thing. I don't know, working with the high school, just be a free flowing, but
Yeah.
it just seems like a natural area of overlap.
But I do know that they have, the Thrasher Horn Center in Clay County, which is a big deal. That's where most of their performing arts. In fact, it's not even doing, they used to have performances all the time there at the campus, and they do a lot of them now at that Performing Arts Center, which I think is in Keystone Heights or Green, where's it's in Orange Park or something, Grand Park Center. I always forget that that's Clay County, but I just think it was part of Jacksonville. But because they cover Clay and Putnam, so they're split with that stuff. But that doesn't mean that they're not interested in stretching down here. So, and I think that there's opportunities for sure, and we need to explore them.
There is, and those opportunities might complement the facilities that we have,
Absolutely.
such as the food service operation, the theater, and the auditorium.
Yeah, the School of the Arts idea, I think, is a good idea, because part of their learning process is, when you go to another venue, how do you set up all the equipment? How do you get everything in place? That's part of their learning curve, and they might look at it as a great opportunity.
Absolutely.
Mr. Chairman, do you have time for a question?
Yes, sir.
In looking at this map, when you're talking about the appraisal and the latest, I think the revised is 850, something like that. Are we talking about only the 5 buildings or all of the physical buildings that go from the south side all the way up to central?
All of it. They're all, the entire property.
All the buildings and the land.
Land.
And the 5 acres?
Yes.
Yes.
That was what the.
So, parcels A, B, and C, inclusive
Okay,
land and buildings,
so everything, basically.
everything.
Okay,
I mean, that's what the review of the appraisal, the second appraisal was, that number came from, was the entire properties.
okay.
And most of it was, it attributed about $500,000 to that parcel C part. And then, so that would leave a remainder, $350,000 for the two other parcels with all the buildings on it,
Okay,
in the opinion of the appraiser. So, much closer, I mean, much more reasonable than the $4.5 million that the first appraisal said. And what John had talked about, you know, if we were willing to pay up to 90% of that appraisal, or the appraisal, the administration could approve it, the school district, the superintendent could go ahead and sign off on it. But we don't want to do that. We want a much lower price. That's why we have to go before the school board, because they have the power, they're the only ones that have the power to make that decision. So, I mean, there's precedent in the past here that, you know, the community schools in Malacca and Pomona Park were sold for $1 and given to them back, you know, decades ago. Obviously, this is a different story, a much larger property, but, you know, the fact of the matter is right now, they closed the school in the spring of 2021. We're now sitting here on the, you know, on the edge of 2025. And the whole idea was to save money, and they're still paying almost $100,000 a year to run the school that's empty.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's a liability to them. And from our standpoint as the city, of course, it's a liability to us too, because if it just sits there and falls apart, it's not great for anybody. And so, I mean, it's an opportunity that we need to seize on. The way I look at it is we don't have, there's no other option. The school needs to belong to the city. It's getting to that point and being able to come up with a rationale that, you know, is acceptable at a price. But I think it's very possible. That's the reason I'm here. That's the reason I've been, you know, for this project from the beginning is I can see the rationale and it makes sense to me. We just have to put it on paper and get the school board to buy in. But I think that it's going to be a win-win. We have to make it a win-win for both of us. The school board needs to come out, you know, looking like they've gotten a good deal, and the city has gotten a good deal, and everyone will be happy.
We are looking forward to working with the city and the school board for a happy ending for all of us. And I think we all realize that what a great potential this project has in re-nourishing our fine city, and with great possibilities. As the current situation now is there are great vacancies. You know, commercial property is not selling, and there's been very little movement at all. Just when we look at parcel C, it's been on the market, it's been reduced for over a year. Anyways, again, our goal is to make a winning solution for everyone, especially our community.
Yeah, to avoid the worst of all stories is let it sit there and just fall apart.
Right.
Yes.
It will, it's not being used. Has to be being used.
And we're extremely fortunate they were built so well.
No hurricane damage in 100 years.
No, and architecturally, they're fine buildings.
And probably the safest one in South Putnam County because it has a basement.
Well, yes.
The main building has a basement and it's.
Many of them were built at times when we were kids and, you know, the Cold War, and one of the exercises was hide under your desk.
It wasn't so high.
They're built like wonders.
Yeah.
Well, and even during, you know, when we had the historical society had the archive down there, Cherie went into the main building and actually Dan did too. And you guys found some emergency rations, what was the title?
Survival biscuits and
Yeah.
tins that big still there.
I don't know how to, date them, but they were definitely have been there for a while.
Cuban Missile Crisis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously that that was the reason, because that was a safe building.
At the risk of stating the obvious, is it possible to enter a partnership with the school board of Putnam County to repurpose at least part of the square footage there as a dual enrollment venue? To act as a feeder into a further partnership with St. Johns River. In other words, motivate them by involving them in a multi-way partnership.
Yes, that should certainly be a part of our story to this city.
Yeah, the more partners you can pull in, especially publicly funded, the more opportunity you have for grants.
Yeah.
Carries more weight.
One of the things that we have heard from the administration is, of course, they're building a new school here, the elementary school.
Yeah.
They're also doing the high school, which is with, state, special facilities funding, which most of that comes from the state legislature, but they do have to provide 1 mill's worth of tax revenue for the next 3 years, which, is one of those things that a lot of people didn't understand. So right now they are, most of the 1.5 mils that they can tax us for, infrastructure that's on your tax bill, it's a separate line, that is going right now to paying our share of the high school. And it will for this year, and the next 2 tax years. So, they kind of indicated that to a point, they don't want to spend any money, they're spending a lot of money. So, but we can definitely work with them. I think that there's a possibility, to me, it makes natural sense.
Well, what I'm thinking is a partnership where they don't have to spend any money, but where they can release the physical property as payment in kind.
Yeah, I think there's definitely options. I mean, we know that we have space. We're not gonna be able to utilize all that space. And, obviously the first natural, use is classrooms, because they're already classrooms. I mean, the older buildings that are in the middle there, which I was not aware of how great of shape that they're in, because they have renovated them. And, all of those in there, that could easily be, nonprofits that need space, downtown partnership that needs office space. And school, just leave them as classrooms and set them up. I really think that anybody, come one, come all. We definitely know that there's a need, for nonprofits and for other, organizations that need space to rent or, as just gratis. But, we can have that as a resource. And I think that, we'll find out even more who needs space and I think that can be a great resource for the community. Have everything centralized too, which I think there's great, synergy to come from that.
Yeah, certainly the most economical repurposing would be to repurpose classrooms as classrooms. We just change the grade level. And credit the county with a contribution, pick a number as crediting kind for that donation. It doesn't have to be any real money involved, as long as they're credited with making a contribution of $800,000.
I mean,
I think it wins for them.
in every discussion that we've had with the superintendent and Mr. Bowling, who's the associate superintendent, is that they are very enthusiastic. They are willing to work with us. They will do anything they can to make this happen within reason. But, we have to sell it to the school board, but they understand where we're coming from too. We had actually a discussion that John and I had with them. I flat out told them that we're not going to take on a ton of debt and pay the school district for these buildings. So I want to start out in a hole, and I just flat out told them that I don't think we're not gonna pay 6 figures for anything, and I probably should have said 7 figures, but 6 figures was great too. But, and so that kind of, at first they were like, well, you can do a bond. Like, no, that's not.
Well, that's what they did.
Yeah. And I'm like, that's not an option. That's not what we're gonna do. Because if we start out already saddled with $4 million or whatever, or a ton of debt, then how are we gonna spend any money on the facility? And I know the realities of our budget after just going through our budget process. And so, there is money that we can find, but I don't wanna take on a ton of debt to start out. So, and they understood that after, I flat out told them. So, but they know that they need to make this happen and we need to make it happen. So, and they're it's not an adversarial thing, they're definitely on board. We just have to come up with the right rationale and the right, as John says, story. And we're working on it, we're very getting closer.
The site and physical plant is unique. And for most applications, it just doesn't fit. It so happens for our desires, it fits perfectly. And it's the best solution. So I think that's important to recognize. And BJ, you're right, we have a responsibility to our residents to financially to make this work with the less impact as possible.
Well, and, yeah, I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to start out already carrying this huge amount of expense or cost and have just property, because then we'll have it, but then, what are we doing with it? I don't want to not be able to use anything because we don't have any money to keep it up or that kind of thing. So, I mean, we have to make it work. And I think that's one of the things that, talking about this, we're going to have to have a phasing in period, or actually have a due diligence period that we are, before we take on the property and have closing on it. And that will be kind of long, but that way we can continue working on partnerships and getting all that together and lining up grants, hopefully.
And looking at a pro forma on how it may work over a number of years. Because let's face it, part of the funding will come with the sale of real estate the city owns.
And in addition, I forgot what my point was going to be, but that process will give us some time to make room in our budget as well. Because, we've looked at their current carrying costs, or their current operating costs of electricity and their property insurance, which I need to get some more clarification on, because that for some reason doubled after the school closed, but I think we discussed that. But, they gave us all those costs, and, it's costing them $100,000 a year right now. So, I mean, if the idea was to close the school and save money, they haven't done that. I mean, they've closed the school, and there's no kids there, but it's still costing money. I mean, it's costing less than it did with the kids there, but still, that's a.
That's why my suggestion is that our sales pitch should focus on they're cutting their costs and getting credit for a donation.
That's very good.
Good way to look at it.
Any other discussion or topics?
It's beginning to sound to me, Dan, as if this has certain similarities to the Atlantic Center for the Arts over in New Smyrna, which is internationally known and acts as a kind of a retreat for well-known artists to come and stay for a while on sabbatical from work, they live or practice, and give seminars with the community, exhibitions and so on. It's a natural thing. You kind of semi-wild at the north end of town on the mainland. It's some distance from the ocean, but there is a very active painting community over there, artists that goes to seascapes and so on. It's very well known. They have musical concerts as well. For the auditorium, we could have, you mentioned a performing arts center, so we could combine all of the fine arts there in that area with a public education mission and a partnership that involves at least 3 different institutions. I mean, this could re-identify Crescent City.
There's a lot of local artists.
And we'd be raising the bar on our tourism caliber quite a ways.
Economically, absolutely, a huge impact.
And the right kind of tourism.
Yes, quality. Well, excellent. All righty. Any other comments? Yes, sir.
Thank you for your indulgence. I just can't resist it. The first thing, I'll probably be preaching to the choir a little bit, but I'm getting excited hearing all the ideas back and forth. 2 points. Every potential partner, every potential use, that kind of thing, they not only fill space, they fill our most essential need, which is money. They bring funding with them. And everyone's focus is to not place a burden upon the city and therefore the taxpayers. And so that's kind of a tangible thing. To kind of echo your comments, there's an unbelievably significant intangible benefit. A lot of effort's gone over the last couple of years to kind of market Crescent City and to create an identity for Crescent City that's distinct and unique and attractive to people. And the performing arts, I mean, we have a remarkably talented artist full of energy who has lived in Crescent City her whole life, as we do fun, who has influence in the artistic community. We have the performing arts and so on and so forth. We have just the facility underscores our community emphasis on historic preservation and historic identity. And perhaps all of that intangible thing, if we can figure out a way to include it and weave it into our narrative and our presentation to the city commission. It's almost impossible to measure, but the potential is just immense. So thank you, Officer Watts, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. All righty, well, what a fine meeting.
It's nice to have 5 people, to have everybody up there.
It is.
This is the first time all the positions have been filled and present.
And we made further synergy.
And I, on behalf of the commission, I do appreciate all of you spending time with us and taking all this time out of your, free time. I get paid to be here, a very, very small amount, but you guys are giving your time freely, and I appreciate that. And the city appreciates that. I don't think we would have gotten it nearly 5 feet if it hadn't been for this committee. So you guys have done a great job, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Lord, that's very nice to recognize that. And, all right, is there a motion to adjourn?
Set the next meeting. We haven't done that yet.
Oh, yes, yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you. Also, in respect to our new members, is Tuesday a good day to meet? Tuesday mornings? Fine with me. Should we meet every week?
29.
Yeah, I just emailed Krista from Gillett, so hopefully I can have that appraisal. She said it was gonna be the 25th or the 28th, so I should have it before the next meeting.
Great.
It might not be, if I get it beforehand, I'll have it sent out, or have Karen send it out to you. So as soon as I get it, I will distribute it. But I did send her an email saying, if you can, please, let me have it by next week. So we should have that on the agenda. But I do agree, taking a week off after that reflection would be a good idea. And I believe, the city commission meets the Monday after?
Tuesday after this year because it falls on Veterans Day.
Oh, yes, okay.
So we'll do Tuesday night.
I should probably put that on my calendar.
So what is the date next Tuesday?
It's
The 29th.
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 So we do it Tuesday, it's Tuesday at 6, is the commission meeting? Tuesday the 12th?
Tuesday the 12th. Yeah, Tuesday the 12th at 6 p.m.
Want to make sure I'm there?
And as we take election day, November 5th up, realistically, after that, we probably will need to meet every week. Because we have a lot to achieve. And the end of the year is approaching quickly. Okay, so we don't have a motion to adjourn yet, do
No, yes, start.
We haven't officially set the meeting yet.
Next.
This is
The
the
29th.
29th.
we? Yes, okay, thank you, Ron.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, aye? Aye. Thank you, everyone.